Hey, Professor Homa back. We're continuing on our CSS file. We did the top part, basically. We did the header and the address bar. Next, we're going to focus on this navigation area to the left. These are eventually going to be navigation buttons, which they change when you hover over them. So we're going to have to do a lot with our pseudo links like a link and a visited and a hover. But right now, we just want to make it look like the sample. So we're just going to use our list, our unordered list, to do that. And then we're going to have to do this section part. And then at the bottom's pretty easy. So this is kind of the hardest part of it just to start. So a couple things we're going to do here is we have to identify that this is an ID that's named nav left, but it's actually in the nav element. So we're going to continue to use kind of the last name to precede this here, just like if they call you off in roll call, they'd use your last name. So I'm going to start this off with the outermost one, which is nav, and then I'll put the ID name, which is nav left. And I didn't use camel case in here, it's just using a small L. So I'll put that in, I'll put my brackets in here to start. Now with nav left, I'm just going to put a padding all around everything for the nav left, just for that section, so it has 16 pixels all around, kind of like we did on the last one. And I'm just going to put 16 pixels in here. And we shouldn't really see anything different. Nothing that interesting is going to happen when we go to preview it at this point. You may just see a little bit more margin in here. You could see a little bit on the top in here. That's just the nav section, and obviously we're going to have to put things side by side and all that. We're going to have to take away the bullets, all that kind of stuff we're going to have to do. Now, in addition to this, and I'm just going to copy and paste this, that's all I'm going to do with nav left for now. I'm not going to worry about the float quite yet. I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it twice, and I'll get rid of the inner stuff because I don't want that confusing me. And now what we're going to do is we're going to identify nav left. There's two things here. There's the UL, because remember in your index we actually have, if you look at your nav, we have nav ID nav left, and there's a UL. So that's inside there. That's kind of a descendant that's inside there. That's something that's inside it. So when you identify that, a descendant, you actually put a space. You don't put them together. So that's the UL that's inside that ID. And then there's also going to be an LI that's inside here. So UL is the entire list, LI is each line item. So the first thing we're going to do for the unordered list is we're going to get rid of those bullets. Because we don't want bullets, they're going to look like navigation buttons. So we're going to do something called list style. And you'll see list style image. You can use list style image if you want to change the bullet image, but if you're not using a bullet at all, just use list style and then just find none. Or just type in none. And that's all we're going to do, and that should take away the bullet. So if I just check this out right now, the bullet should be gone, and that's what I want. And you can see now it's the margin is over at 16, and you can see this whole element is actually taking up the whole width of my body right now, which eventually I'm going to change that. But for now, I'll leave it like that. And going back here, now I'm going to target each individual line items. That's where I can make them look like buttons. I could give them a background color. I could give them a certain width if I wanted to for each line item, and I'm going to do that. So I'm not going to have you watch me type it. I'm going to put those in and then I'll explain it quickly. Okay, some of the properties I ended up putting in here for the nav left for the line items. Remember the whole list, I just put a list of none and took away the bullet. So for the line items, I put a margin top. What that's going to do is just put a little 6-pixel separation between each line item. It's almost like a space before. So it's going to put space between each line item. I put a width so that it doesn't go all the way across the body. I put 192 pixels. I'll explain why I use that value later, but you could put any kind of value, 200 something. It doesn't matter what width you put in right now, just as long as it's something, somewhere in the 200 range. I put a background color. This is a blue color. If I hover over this, you can see it's a blue color that I kind of took out of the picture. I also have padding. This is for each line item. There's a little bit of padding on the top and bottom, and there's 8 pixels on the left and right. And then there's a color, the text color of white. So I want the buttons to show up as white. Now if I go look at this, you can see what's happening. Everything, there's the background color. This is the margin top. These little gaps are created by the margin top. Here's the padding that's going around each line item. Okay, so everything's working okay so far, except my text color isn't white. And you could probably guess why they're not white, because they're actually links. I have this pre-linked, and right now they're showing up with a visited link color and an underline. And we're going to have to change that. When we deal with the links, we're going to do that. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm going to leave that white color. If I had regular text that wasn't linked it would be white. But because this is special text that's linked, it's not taking the white color, it's taking its default link color. So that's the only thing we have to deal with for the time being. Now a couple other things I can do with the text in here is, if you remember on the sample, it's actually in capital letters and it's actually bold. So what I can do is I could go back to my CSS, and there is a property for making something capital letters. You don't have to retype it. It's called text transform. So I'm going to put that in, and it's text dash transform, and it should come up in your list, and they just have an uppercase. So I'm going to put that in. That should make it all caps. And then as I'm working on this, I'm also going to put another one, the font weight, which will be bold. Remember, font style is italic, font weight when you're making it bold. So I'm going to put in my font weight, and I'm going to make it bold. If you see all these numbers, there's different weights of fonts, but I'm just going to use bold for now because I'm just using a very generic font. And then I'm also going to make the font size a little smaller. I'll do that 0.9 em. So I'll choose font size, and I'll just do 0.9 em, which is like a 90% of default. So I'll save what I have here, and I'll take a look at it, refresh it, and you can see now these things are in caps, they're bold. Now they still have the underlines and they're still showing up as links. Now that's something I'm not going to address right now. I can't address with the line item style because these are links. I have to address that with my link styles, which I'll do later. But for now, that's kind of the way I want it to look. So that's pretty much my nav list part, and I'm going to move on to the section.